Grand Park celebrates the cultural movement of this next collective who uses music to uplift their art and activism. Check out Cumbiaton.
Cumbiaton started back in 2017, and it was right after Trump got elected. So a lot of us come from, whether it's immigrant rights, labor rights, background in organizing. And we needed to find a space where we can hold space for one another, right? Because I think at that time there was a lot of, and rightfully so, there was a lot of fearfulness, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of frustration, and some folks were also scared, right? So we wanted to create a space where our community organizing space could come together, and just kind of refuel that energy that we put out into the world so much. And little by little, it started evolving. It started off with two people, myself and my homegirl, Norms La Oaxaqueña, who's also the co-founder. And then slowly but surely, we started growing this little tiny but mighty artist collective, which includes Funky Caramelo, our other resident DJ, Paolo, who's our resident photographer, Julio Salgado, who is our illustrator, Norms La Oaxaqueña, who is our production manager, and myself, DJ Sizzle Fantastic, who is another resident DJ and the co-founder as well. And, we started building this little family of amazing artists who also happen to be undocumented.
The fact that we're undocumented, right? Folks are always portrayed in a certain manner. If you're undocumented, you're automatically titled, like, oh, you should be scared, you shouldn't be up at the forefront, be invisible. And I think for a lot of our lives, we were brought up in that way because of many reasons, right? And we came to an enlightenment or to an awakening of realizing that being invisible was no longer a choice for us. Cumbiaton is like not only being visible, but also being able to take up the spaces that for the longest time did not belong to us.
Graciela Lopez and Cecile Vasquez, better known as DJ Funky Caramelo and DJ Sizzle Fantastic, saw a need for communal expression in light of rising xenophobia and racism.
Cumbiaton was actually born out of the need to protest against these systems of oppression that, impact whether it's undocumented communities, whether it's queer communities, whether it's POC communities, right? Any and all marginalized oppressed hood communities, right? Cumbiaton is the birth of that, right? Is the resistance of that, is our way of protesting against these systems that tell us that we are not worthy of love, we are not worthy of joy, we are not worthy of happiness, of dancing, of healing, right? So Cumbiaton, in essence, is itself a protest. But further, we're also a space where, we have our audience, our following, right, become aware of these injustices and become politicized, right? As I was mentioning earlier before, we do come from an organizing background. And as organizers, you see a pool of people, right? And it would be, like for us, we see this pool of people and we're like, this is a point where we can also activate, right, some sort of political movement, right? And whether it's displaying on our billboards or rather on our screens, right, denouncing any and all xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, anti-Blackness, right? We're having these conversations with people right there at the club, right? Where sometimes you might not think you can have these conversations there. You cannot politicize, your different audience there, but we take any and all opportunity to also do our part in uplifting the messages of our communities, right? Because we know at the end of the day, we are not all free until, all of us are free, right? And this means any people in detention centers, any people in jail, any Black folks fighting against white supremacy, right? We are actively and we will continue to fight for, just our collective liberation. Boyle Heights was the birthplace of Cumbiaton. Having been brought up in Boyle Heights, there's a lot of rich culture here, and I'm talking culture in resistance, I'm talking culture in movement, I'm talking culture working class, right? There's just so much beauty here in our community. However, when we first started Cumbiaton, we also noticed that there's not a lot of spaces where, folks could come and release and enjoy music here in the neighborhood, right? Like we would have to go out to downtown LA, we would have to go out to West Hollywood, we would have to go out to different areas of the city, when in reality, all of that Cumbiaton all of Cumbiaton encompasses is right here in Boyle Heights.
As it pertains to the current protests, like we are definitely supportive of the protest, 1,000%. We do acknowledge that our liberation as Latinx people, it's also tied to the liberation of Black folks. So we definitely we support the protest. We've actually have been at the protest, and not just recently. Like this is work that we've been doing, for years now, right? And as accomplices, not just allies, our goal is just to also uplift the message of the Black community and also educate our folks. Like there's a lot of anti-Blackness within the Latinx community. Has been the intentional erasure of Afro-Latinx folks within our community. Even cumbia, even reggaeton, salsa, merengue, all the genres that we love, have an origin of Blackness. And folks, for whatever reason, have either chosen to ignore that, or completely dismiss it. So we, essentially, Cumbiaton wouldn't even be possible without the creation of music by Black folks. So it is our duty to step up and, support our Black brothers and sisters in whatever way we can.